Was deploying Chapman in the 7th the right move, Max?
Yes, it was. And I'm shocked to say that because when he did it, I thought, what are you doing? You got a 5-run lead. There are 2 guys on. Was he going to hit a 5-run home run? But the more I thought about it, Madden's just a really smart guy. The answer is yes, that was actually the right move. Look, as Apollo Creed told Rocky in Rocky III, when he wasn't training seriously enough for Clubber Lang, Stephen A. Smith, when he didn't have the eye of the tiger, there is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. The Cubs are facing elimination. It's not enough to say, well, someone else could get a couple of outs, or really, in that case, 1 out before they give up 5 runs, even with 2 guys on base, obviously. No. Those other guys don't give you your best chance to win right then. You cannot be thinking about Game 7 at that moment. Only what's in front of you because you're facing elimination. Now, the Cubs have a soft bullpen. In fact, that was their Achilles heel, and people saw it all year heading into the postseason. What were they going to do about the bullpen? Which is why they gave up so much to the Yankees for a rental in Aroldis Chapman, who, by the way, wants to sign with the Yankees in the offseason. Like a true rental. Here, take this guy for a minute. Give us some great prospects, and then we're going to take him right back. But they did it because it was such a high-leverage moment in the history of their franchise. They knew that he could be the difference between winning and losing the World Series. And what you do in that situation, if you're the Cubs, even sitting on a 5-run lead, is you don't go to your second best move. You go to your strongest move right there, which they did. And by the way, it worked. They won. They're alive to play another game. They're playing tonight.
First of all, your analogy is misguided because there obviously is tomorrow because that was last night and there's a Game 7 tonight. So there is tomorrow. You had a 7-2 lead, okay? I disagree with your premise here. I don't think it ultimately is going to cause because I'm not jumping off the bandwagon. I started the postseason saying that the Cubs are going all the way and I'm going down with the ship. If they go down, I'm going down with them. I said they're going to win the World Series even when they were down 3-1. I've stuck to that premise. Now it's 3-3. There will be a Game 7. That's point number 1. Point number 2, stop with the damn boxing analogies. You are a brilliant man. You are an expert in boxing, but you know far more. It doesn't matter. You know far more than boxing. I don't want to hear no damn boxing analogy. But we can talk about that. But we can talk about that before the Pacquiao fight for Saturday night.
Many lessons in life can be learned from Rocky III.
I understand. I understand. Oh, there's a couple of Rocky IV. I can give you a speech from Rocky IV when he was talking to his wife, Adrian. You know when she said you can't win. I can talk about that, but I won't go there today. Here's the one I will stay, and that is on Aroldis Chapman. The man threw 20 pitches last night. He's thrown over 40 pitches. No, he's thrown over 40 pitches over the last 2 games, even though there was a split, a day off. There was something that you saw that seemed just a touch that was missing. When you talk about a Game 7, that's all it takes to swing the pendulum in your direction. The fact that he was put into that game with a 5-run lead, I think that's problematic.
And in the middle of the order coming.
Wait a minute. In the middle of the order coming, which is what Joe Madden said that was the reason he put him in there. But my biggest thing is also this. Yes, all hands on decks or what have you, but you never know who you might need. Even though Lester's going to be available for Game 7 and Aroldis Chapman is going to be available for Game 7. You don't know if you're going to need more than those guys, if you're not going to need other relievers. And when you bring in Chapman in that particular situation, sometimes you compromise stuff managerially because you're not placing the level of confidence in other dudes that you should ultimately place in them. I don't think that it will be a death knell for the Chicago Cubs, but if I've got a 7-2 lead, I'm confident, and especially with the bat swinging. Addison Russell, 6 RBIs, a grand slam. Chris Bryant smacks a home run in the first inning, setting things off. You're seeing that the bats are flowing at this particular juncture. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, and you know that you have a 5-run lead, what I'm not going to do is bring my ultimate dude in, knowing that the probability of me getting to a Game 7 and needing him is very likely because I got a 5-run lead going into the 8th inning.
It is likely,
I'm not going to do that.
But you know what makes it more likely? And that's what I mean by there is no tomorrow. If you lose that game, makes it more likely if you bring Chapman in. Less likely if you don't. So what you do in that situation is give yourself the most likely scenario. Look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that this was cut and dried. Using Chapman early the previous game, remember, they had a night off, but was a very smart move, and not even a lot of people protested that. A couple of years ago, all the dummies in the sport, oh, you don't bring in your closer in the 7th inning, which is ridiculous. Your relief ace should come in the high leverage moments.
Wait a minute. That doesn't make folks dumb. They're flowing with conventional wisdom.
Right.
What they usually hold on. What they usually see managers do, and they're thinking that's the way.
I'm talking about the managers too.
I'm just saying it doesn't make them dumb.
I appreciate that.
That's very incendiary and very insulting to the managers and the baseball aficionados, Max Kellerman. Are you sure?
Yes.
What if that came out of the mouth of Tim Kirkjian, the great Tim Kirk? Would you say it's dumb then? No, you wouldn't. You know better.
I would never insult Tim Kirk.
Exactly. So be
First
respectful.
Of all, he might get you on a basketball court and embarrass you.
That's true. He can play.
Yes, he can.
He can play. But go ahead.
All right. The point is
he can play. He's true.
The point is, as I was saying, a lot of the dumb people once upon a time thought you don't bring him in the if it's not the 9th inning. They brought him in the 7th inning. That's the proper way to do it. Right. The high leverage moments. That wasn't even controversial. It was more controversial that he didn't pinch hit Schwarber for Ross, right?
Okay.
Because the game seemed to be on the line there, and that turned out to be the right move too.
Wait, don't compare the two.
Well, don't compare the two. Because of the relationship between Lester and Ross and the way he throws to him, and he gave you a few more innings, and it worked out, and they won the game. That was controversial at the time, but it turned out to be the right move. This is his most controversial move of all. I'm not going to pretend it's not. It's a controversial move.
Okay.
But in the end, it's the right one. You have to get those outs now. You say he doesn't have confidence in the bullpen.
Stop.
No one did. That's why they traded for him.
Stop for a second. The fact that you're willing to concede is controversial. And the fact that we don't know the outcome of Game 7, you can't say it was the right move. Now, if they win tonight and Aroldis balls out, you have a point. But until then, you cannot say definitively that was the right move. Hold on, point. This is my point. If you have a 5-run lead,
it's unlikely you're going to blow it.
With the bats flowing, I'm saying, why not wait to see if you're going to need Aroldis Chapman? If they get the bases loaded, if something like that happens, and you're in danger of the score being tied or losing this huge lead that you've accumulated, that's different because that's emergency. But you don't just do it to throw them in a 5-run lead.
Let's say the next batter gets a base hit. That's not, an extra base hit even. Easily scores 2 runs. And now you're talking about a 3-run game with a guy on second base and 2 outs. Okay. Now you want to bring in Chapman when you have to start sweating it, right?
Yes.
Why? Because it's even higher. Because it's a higher leverage moment.
Because hold on. That's the moment.
The game is the high leverage moment.
That's the moment. That's what a close is about. No. Think about this. Time out. If you are an ace. All right, you're an ace. Let's just take the playoff, the postseason out of the equation. If you are an ace, you are the man, and you got a 5-run lead in the regular season, okay? What are you thinking? I can save him for another day. I don't need him unless he needs to work because he hasn't been working because you've been blowing everybody out. Outside of that, you're going like this. I don't need him here. We got a cushion. The very definition of what a closer in baseball is supposed to be is somebody that rolls up in there to close the deal in a tight, duress situation.
Let me use the Stephen A.
That's what happens.
Time out. Do you know what a closer does? You know what Joe Madden does? You know what Madden does? Madden doesn't worry about these. This is why I said dumb. These stupid labels. It's the closer has to do this and the setup guy has to do. He's not worried about that. He's managing to win the baseball game. That's it. So he's not worried about the preconceived notion.
You're wrong.
And he's also
wrong.
And he's also
you're wrong.
And he's also not worried about being second guessed. He's worried about the Cubs winning the game,
Max Kellerman.
which they did.
Max Kellerman, I would appreciate it if you stopped saying the sky is blue. We already know. What the hell you mean he's not managing for everybody else? He's managing to win. Who the hell doesn't know that? We all know that.
You're putting a definition on the roles that he's supposed to assign his players.
He's not just managing to win the game. He's managing to win the series.
There's no series.
Wait a minute. We're saying you're up 7-2. The probability, to use one of Max's favorite words, quantitatively or whatever the case, whatever words you want to come up with. I brought a thesaurus for you, by the way. I'm going to pull it out next. I'm going to pull it out in the next day or so. The point that I'm trying to make to you is this, Max. You have the probability being very high that there's going to be a Game 7 when you have a 5-run lead going into the 8th inning. I'm simply saying that means for all the marbles, it's tonight It's not an
didn't
off
have a
day.
five-run
It's
lead
not.
in the eighth inning.
Excuse me. What was it? What was
It was a 5-run lead in the seventh inning.
Seventh inning.
And if you bring in an inferior relief pitcher and he gives up a hit, which is not the most unlikely scenario in the world, that five runs turns into 3 runs, and now people start sweating it, including the team.
I'm saying to you is that if they're sweating it, that's why Chapman is there. Because when everybody else is sweating, he's the one most qualified, according to Theo Epstein, for these Cubs to close the deal.
Right.
That's what it's about.
And what Madden worries about is not how other people label his players.
I know that. We all know that. We're talking about the decision.
How to best apply his players in that situation.
We're talking about the decision.
What he didn't want to happen was any runs to score right then and everybody getting tight. He wanted to bring in the hammer, end it there, which is what happened.
But Max, we're not debating his emotions. Hold on. We're not. Hold on. We're not debating his emotions. We're not debating his emotions.
You're acting as though 20 pitches is the end of the world. No. When he came into the league, he was a starter in Cuba. Dusty Baker.
Hold on, wait a minute.
What do you think? He can't
wait a minute. As much as you know about baseball, you're going to sit there with a straight face and act like it's not possible that throwing 40-plus pitches over the last 2 games for your closer couldn't potentially be detrimental in the Game 7? Is that what you're saying?
It is possible. So?
That's all I'm saying.
But that's what a manager's paid to do. He's paid to weigh those possibilities and make the right choice.
That's your argument? That's what a manager's paid to do?
Yeah.
That's the best you've got?
And he did it.
That's the best. So in other words...
They were down 3-1. They're going to a Game 7.
So what are you going to say?
And the pitcher they're facing is on 3 days rest. They have a fully rested guy.
What are you going to say if Aroldis Chapman steps out there tonight and at any point his arm looks tired?
If his arm looks tired... Then
that is plausible.
By the way,
isn't that plausible?
Okay, if the next guy gets a hit, his arm looks tired anyway. He has to come in and get out of a jam.
Max.
Yeah.
If Aroldis Chapman's arm looks tired,
you're assuming.
What are you going to say?
What would you say if the pitcher came in and gave up a hit and the game tightened? They had to bring in Chapman anyway. Then his arm would still be tired. You're giving me a hypothetical. I'm giving you a hypothetical.
How is that a hypothetical? The baseball aficionados that cover this league, anybody that has a concern, it's prefaced on that. That's the whole argument.
Of course, you take risks. None of these things are set in stone. You take risks when you make a move. Okay. That's a risk he's willing to take.
And I'm saying, remember when we were talking about Schwarber early in the series, and I was concerned about him playing the field because I said, don't jeopardize. I think this series is going to go 6 or 7 games. We could go to the tape. I said, I think this series is going to go 6 or 7 games. I need that back. Don't you dare put that man out in the field and jeopardize this series.
He wasn't ready to play the field
as it turned out. But that was my concern. Don't jeopardize that key moment. Game 7 is here. I'm worried that Chapman may have been compromised. That's all we're saying here.
Yep. And Madden.
That's it.
Let's talk a little more about it. Let's make some picks. It's Kyle Hendricks and Corey Kluber on the mound tonight from the land. Stephen A., who wins and why?
Well, I ain't jumping off the ship. I picked the Cubs before the playoffs began. I've stayed with it, unlike some people I know, and I'm going to stick with it right now. I'm going down with the ship. If the Cubs go down, I'm going down with them. I wanted this 108-year curse to end. It is about over. They are within 9 innings of capturing a championship for the World Series title for the first time since 1908. This is what it's going to come down to. I don't know if it's going to come down to Chapman. I hope that he's ready, but I think that these boys and their bats, I think Kluber's going to get smacked a little bit. Let me tell you something right now. When you look at some of the things that transpired, in the end, Kluber's no joke. We all know that. He shut him down, only allowed 1 run in the series, if I remember correctly. Here's the point. This dude, his curve, his fastball, it's given them a lot of difficulty. I suspect that may still be the case. But it's one of those games where I think with Hendricks on the hill, all you're going to need is 3 to 4 runs. I think that Hendricks can hold the Indians to 3 runs or less. Can you, if you're the Cubs, score 3 or 4 runs in this game? I think you work the count. I think you do whatever you can to get Kluber up out of there. Now, Kluber's obviously only has to get to about the 5th inning. They're going to bring in Miller. We know what Miller can do. I think Miller can be vulnerable. I think he can be had. As great as he's been, I think he can be had. because Kluber's stuff to me is more deadlier than his. I think if the Cubs can pull that off, which I believe they will find a way to manufacture 3 to 4 runs between Rizzo, between Bryant. Schwarber, back in the American League, can be your DH. He's going to get some at-bats. I believe because of that, they will find a way to manufacture about 4 runs or so. It will be enough, and the Chicago Cubs will close the deal tonight 4-3. They will win the World Series.
You did take the Cubs from the very beginning, and I took the field. The reason, and the Cubs were the odds-on favorite. Cubs are the best team in baseball all year, but the best team doesn't always win. You always take the field against the best team in baseball. That's why they're the odds-on favorite, but they're not actually the favorite.
By the way, my apologies. I said Chapman threw about 42. It was like 62 pitches the last 2 games. I'm sorry.
So
go ahead.
Combined, it was 42 and then the 20.
Yes.
So of course you don't take one team against the field in baseball until the field narrows to 1. If it's a field of 1, now you can take the best team in baseball.
You can explain it. You just jumped off. It's okay. Come on to the winning side, baby. Come on over. Come on over.
Now, that's the way it works.
All right.
Now, the Cubs won 103 games this season, and Cleveland won 94. They're 9 games better during the regular season, but it's more than that. The Cubs' run differential is historically great. That's the stuff that goes into wins and losses.
Got it.
252. They outscored the opposition by 252 versus Cleveland was 101. The Cubs are a better team than Cleveland, and the weakness that the Cubs had was in the bullpen, which was addressed by the Chapman acquisition. They now have that addressed, and Lester's ready to go out of the bullpen. So the bullpen is less of an issue now than it ever has been for the Cubs throughout the course of the season. Even with, as you described, a so-called compromised Chapman, I think it's fine. He can still throw the ball. You know, milk him for everything he's worth right now. Here's the issue for Cleveland. If they were going on full rest, if it was Kluber on full rest with Miller in the bullpen for those high-leverage moments before you get to the end of the bullpen, I like Cleveland. But it's not Kluber on full rest. And when you come down to these kind of moments, and you have one guy who's pitched exceptionally well all year, and then it continued in the postseason in Hendricks, versus another guy where there could be a little weakness there, where he may not be able to give you the same kind of length, even with Miller in the bullpen, I think you have to favor the Cubs tonight.
Well, listen. This can go either way, to be honest with you. I'm sticking with the Cubs. I ain't changing. But I am worried in this regard. Because of Miller and how early you can put him in, Kluber can go out there and flat out ball for 3 or 4 innings, and he will have done his job. Because you're not looking for him to go through
Got to keep him in the game.
You're not looking for him to go through 6 complete innings and give somebody else the ball around 7. Kluber can literally just put in the work for 3 to 4 innings, and he will have done his job in a Game 7 because Miller's the kind of dude that can take you from the 4th through the 8th and then ultimately gives it to Cody Allen, you know, in inning number 9. So it's going to be dicey. It's going to be tough. But these dudes are young studs. I believe that if you were the Indians, you were going to kill them off. You should have taken them out in 5.
By the way,
had
Miller
them
could give you some length there,
right,
except that, you know, Chapman was turned into a reliever by Dusty Baker because he just loved the idea of what he could bring as a reliever. Miller couldn't work as a starter, became a reliever. So, you know, obviously in Miller's case, the longer he goes, the more he's exposed. You'd ideally like to use him for an inning and a half because there's a high leverage moment, a guy's on base, fewer than 2 outs, really tight game. He gets you out of the jam, maybe pitches the next inning, and hopefully that occurs later in the game. The fact that Kluber going on short rest is more likely to go short, I think, than Hendricks gives the Cubs the advantage there.
Well, listen, to me, it's all about the bats. It's all about the bats. Even though you usually rely on pitching, I think what I'm trying to say about the pitching is I think it'll be evenly matched. I think both sides will do their job on the mound. In the end, it's going to come down to Rizzo, to Bryant, to Baez. He's got to show up. To Addison Russell, he doesn't have to have that kind of game that he had last night, but it's got to be. They've got to put a bat on the ball. I think they will do it when it counts.
Whatever happens,
that's going to be the deal.
This is the most dramatic. I mean, how much more dramatic?
I mean, this is special, man. This is special.
I need to make it clear to the American people, though, we're all picking the Cubs, but to be clear, Stephen and I want to see the Cubs win. You don't.
No, I want to see Cleveland win in the worst kind of way. It's nothing against the Cubs fans in Chicago, like that 108-year-old woman.
You're just cruel. You're just cruel. It's okay.
No,
you're just cruel.
Bandwagon Cubs fans, like those bandwagon Red Sox fans.
Move on.
They're the worst. You're the worst.
Let's move on. Head over to Twitter, weigh in. Who do you want to see win Game 7? Are you with Stephen A. or Max? We'll share those votes a little bit later in the show. Was deploying Chapman in the 7th the right move, Max?
Yes, it was. And I'm shocked to say that because when he did it, I thought, what are you doing? You got a 5-run lead. There are 2 guys on. Was he going to hit a 5-run home run? But the more I thought about it, Madden's just a really smart guy. The answer is yes, that was actually the right move. Look, as Apollo Creed told Rocky in Rocky III, when he wasn't training seriously enough for Clubber Lang, Stephen A. Smith, when he didn't have the eye of the tiger, there is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. The Cubs are facing elimination. It's not enough to say, well, someone else could get a couple of outs, or really, in that case, 1 out before they give up 5 runs, even with 2 guys on base, obviously. No. Those other guys don't give you your best chance to win right then. You cannot be thinking about Game 7 at that moment, only what's in front of you because you're facing elimination. Now, the Cubs have a soft bullpen. In fact, that was their